Hey, everybody, you need to do what you can to become electrically independent now while you can, because there's going to be shortages this summer. The U.S. Energy Association had a press release saying that, you know what, shortages are coming. And for us as preppers, of course, we have to prepare for this. And I'm going to go through techniques on how to prepare, and even medically speaking, what we need to do as well. All right, I will give you solutions, so stay to the end. But the major announcements are this. Number one, electrical demands are going to hit records this summer. Three reasons for that. Number one, they're going to have rise in data centers, a lot more data centers going around because of computers. I don't know if you know it, but they have a ridiculous amount of power consumption for these places. Also, the push for electric transportation, which, that's been shoved down our throat for the last 4 years. I think it's cool stuff, but I want to have a choice to have a gas vehicle. I'm sorry. And a lot of manufacturing from that same kind of push as the manufacturing plants are switching from fossil fuels to electric instead, trying to make a greener environment by using electricity. We don't have enough power on the grid to power all this stuff, and because of that, we're going to have some problems. Including, they said that there's more than likely at least half the country is going to experience some kind of shortages this summer. Half the country. Not to mention, weather patterns are showing and suggesting it's going to be a very hot summer. All right, we knew this was coming, by the way. Elon Musk, who obviously sells electric cars, said our grid's not ready for everybody to have an electric car. But yeah, it was still being pushed. But yeah, here we are. So what do we do? First, relax. Mankind has been around for a long time without electricity, ever since the caveman invented the portable window air conditioning. Obviously not. And keeping cool is one of the biggest things we look at. And there are some medical things, again, we'll look at in a second. But it is just a luxury overall. In fact, more people actually die from the cold than die from the heat, but some people still die from the heat. And that's why I'm going to show you some tips and tricks as far as what to look for. All right, keeping cool. The first thing is, it's actually pretty neat. I've modeled the EcoFlow Wave 2. It's a battery-powered air conditioning unit. It is fantastic. I love EcoFlow. And I'll tell you, it works great. But I'll also tell you, it is limited. It will not obviously keep your entire house cool. In fact, it's mostly for like an RV or camping or just one room. But the battery pack and solar panels, hopefully you can make it, go completely without stopping. But it is not made for that. It's made for just portable AC when you need it, maybe the hottest part of the day. And you can actually take like a solar generator and power it up and make it work longer. That's even better. I like using my solar generator just to power a fan in power outages. Up in Michigan, of course, we don't need air conditioning up here, or at least, sometimes we need to just take the edge off a little bit, but my house doesn't have central air. So having a fan, it helps me sleep at night. How about you? Do you enjoy having a fan as you try to sleep at night? And for me, that's often enough. Now, I also have portable air conditioning units. I have one we keep in our living room, and we have a couple window ones. And you know what? My solar generator can actually power those AC units. But again, it's not a permanent fix. Even if you have solar coming on the solar generators, it will not keep that air conditioning going around the clock. So maybe take the edge off in the hot part of the day. But one thing that does work incredibly well, if you're lucky to be living in an environment for this, are what are called evaporative coolers, or simply just swamp coolers. Those are amazing. They're not air conditioners, but you'll see these like in dry air environments, like when you go to Arizona, this giant box sitting on top of a roof. And it doesn't use any type of compressor. The compressor is actually what uses so much power for an air conditioning unit, a fridge and freezer too, by the way. But an evaporative cooler, all it literally does is just has a little pump, has the water trickle down over some grates, and then has a fan, and the fan makes it so it makes that water evaporate. If you're a dry environment, an arid environment, it works well because the water will evaporate. And when water changes from liquid to a gas, it actually takes heat with it, and it cools your house off. My wife Ashley, her parents live in Colorado, and they have a swamp cooler, and it is heaven. Air just pushing on you, nice cool air. But up here in Michigan, humid environments, they don't work so well, unfortunately, but they're amazing if you live in a place that they do work. All right, still keeping cool overall, again, is just a luxury. Keeping your food cool, not really so much. I mean, we can actually have ways for preservation, that's good, but I want you to understand that in third world countries, once they start getting refrigeration in, actually raises life expectancy of that area. Simply put, because the amount of food spoilage and, getting food poisoning, have you ever had food poisoning, is often because the food is not being kept cold or obviously preserved incorrectly too. So my fridge, your big fridge in your kitchen uses a lot of power, and a solar generator will only keep it going for a short amount of time. And if you're looking at simply just shortages this summer, having like a gas or a propane generator is more than enough to keep your fridge going. You're good to go. Not for a long-term solution, however. If you're talking about a major power outage, which we're not discussing in this video, but let's say it's an EMP or a coronal mass ejection, we may be out of power for years in those situations. Your solar generator will not be enough to power your fridge at home, and you better take care of it quickly. We're only talking about usually like 4 hours before some of the more volatile stuff in your fridge starts to get bad, like meat and dairy and things like that. Okay, so having the generator works very well. It can actually help you more long term, but of course you'll run out of gas in the propane. But a freezer, like a chest freezer, for example, you can keep it going. I've done this on the channel a few times. I've done it with like my EcoFlows. I've done it with my Blue Eddy. Literally heavy solar generator, a decent size one, mind you, hooked up to solar panels, hooked up to your chest freezer, and it can run indefinitely without stopping. And the reason being is a chest freezer, the compressor on there, it's the same kind of compressor for your fridge. Not near as powerful, though. It doesn't have to be, because once everything gets frozen inside that, it only needs to kick on once in a while, just a few times throughout the day. And the amount of power coming in, the electricity through the solar panel is more than enough to keep it going indefinitely. So something you might want to consider as well. I always recommend the EcoFlow, and this is not a video about EcoFlow specifically, but you can get a decent-sized solar generator with solar panels and keep your freezer going. That's a fantastic thing for we're talking about, obviously, long-term problems. Okay, let's talk about medically speaking what's going on. The biggest thing is obviously getting warm. You have to worry about two situations, either heat exhaustion or heat stroke. And they both have mostly the same treatment, but they're vastly different as far as the problems they can cause. And they both can be very serious, so make sure you hear me out. And of course, I am a physician, but I no longer practice, so I have my disclaimer here. So obviously seek medical attention somewhere else. I got an injury in the Gulf War, and I can't practice anymore, so there you go. Okay, so I'll explain both of them. Let's talk about heat exhaustion first. Let's talk about just simply sweating. How about that? So obviously you're doing something, your body temperature is rising, your brain knows it, so your brain says, uh-oh, we need to do what we can to cool you off. Oh, let's sweat. So as you sweat, it's a liquid that's on your skin, and it'll go from here in a more arid environment, it'll go from a liquid to a gas, just like that swamp cooler Ashley's parents has, and it takes the heat with it. And that's how your body cools off. Your brain knows that, and that's why you sweat. Now, think about this too, by the way. Cotton absorbs water. So if you're wearing like a cotton shirt, that's why it gets wringing wet. It actually has a more difficult time letting it evaporate. So that's why like dry fit shirts, always best, because it allows it to evaporate and cool you off even more. But think about this. If you're sweating, oh, I'm sweating, it's so warm, and you're in a humid environment, maybe you live in Florida, and in that case, it has a harder time evaporating. It doesn't cool you off enough. Well, now you're going to have problems because you're sweating. I'm dying. I'm so hot. You're sweating. And when that happens, you literally start running out of water. You need to replenish water quite a bit. And simply put, it's not making it so your body temperature is cooling off. So if you see somebody, and here's the easy way to understand this, look at this person. They're like really hot, almost medically problematic, and they're sweating a lot. Oh, that's heat exhaustion because they simply can't keep cool. But having water all over the body is the key to understand heat exhaustion compared to like heat stroke we'll talk about in a second. So heat exhaustion, you may get nauseous, may need to barf. You get dizzy, muscle cramps, especially with older people, muscle cramps come easier. It can even actually mess with your heart and circulation and make it so your pulse gets kind of weak. All right, but the key is you're sweating, but you just can't keep cool. Now, if your body temperature keeps going up, it can cause brain damage. And the brain damage, it can actually damage the part of the brain that keeps you cool, ironically. And now your body temperature, the key temperature, by the way, is 104 Fahrenheit. Once it starts hitting that, your brain may start messing up, and it'll say, you know what? I can't do this anymore, so you stop sweating. So one of the big keys you see for somebody with heat stroke is, you know what? Their skin is dry, even red, and really hot. You're like, wow, it's really hot out here today, even humid, but you're dry. That's because the sweating mechanism has shut off. And obviously, evidently, can be very fatal. So what do we see? Increased brain problems. It can't regulate the temperature. Confusion, seizures, coma. And the key is hot, dry skin is what you're looking at. Okay, so heat exhaustion, you may simply need to take them to a cool place, give them some nice cool things to drink, try to fan them off. And honestly, in reality, if you don't know the difference and there's a problematic, just call 911. Because we're talking about in a situation where crap is not at the fan, call 911 and off. More times than not, by the time 911 gets there, they'll probably be good to go. But heat stroke, that's a different story. You call 911 now. And in the meantime, you still need to cool them off. Cool water, immerse them in cool water if possible. Ice packs, fan them, anything you can, because the sweating mechanism is stopped. And of course, if the body temperature keeps going, it can cause brain damage, seizures, coma, and death. All right, both of them are problematic. But that's what we're looking at possibly, guys, this summer. We're talking about some power shortages, electricity shortages, and something tells me that this summer is not going to be the end of this. I think it's only going to get worse from there. So power shortages coming. What are you doing to prepare for that, by the way? Lots of things you can do. And any things that possibly like the EcoFlow and stuff, I possibly can. I'll link it below. But lots of good, helpful tips for you, including medically speaking. And I hope this helps you out for this hot summer that is coming along. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.